Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the football experience. Caleb, if we were a newspaper company, what would the headline read the morning after the Arsenal City game? Because I got two headlines that are both appropriate. So one is Arsenal falter under the bright lights. And the other one is Arsenal hand Man City the title. So
that's a stretch for me.
It might be a stretch because it's just as much as a stretch as people claiming like 3 games ago that like this title is Arsenal's. Like some people are saying, oh, like yeah, Arsenal are gonna win the league, it's guaranteed and stuff. It's like, well, like I didn't say it's guaranteed. I did say that like when we made our predictions, and our predictions for some of the leagues have fallen really flat. But I said, yeah, I believe that I believe that Arsenal will win the league. But I don't know what headline would you go with then?
Well, it's got to be sensationalist, doesn't it? So I guess I see your thinking in terms of going for extremes like that. And when we do the analysis, I'll disagree on them. So they would raise my eyebrows, and I'd push back on headlines like that. For me, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna quote something that I don't necessarily love, and that's Star Wars. But I'd go Pep and City lower the mask. Because I just thought this, when we do the analysis, this was the anti-Pep. This was everything like Pep has never been this. And they went there and they played like a Burnley, like a Brentford, like an Everton. And they got the result. It was, I don't know, I kind of loved watching it, to be quite honest, the way they did it. Because even second half, I would struggle to say that City were the better team, but they played in the better way. They finally used Haaland. They finally used his physicality, and they played direct. They played long balls, and then they counter-pressed off that, and thought that's how they won this game. You think about the goal in the first half, it's De Bruyne magic, but it's a mistake, just because they pumped a ball long from Edison. And City just never really showed an appetite to try and play out, especially in the second half. I think the second half, there was a big shift, and I'll do something else that I don't normally love to, and I'll go to the stats, because the stats on this game read that Manchester City had 36% of possession and only 300 passes to Arsenal's 520-something. And only 73% of them were accurate compared to over 80 for Arsenal. I have never... I honestly, I have never seen a Pep team play that way. When's the last time you could even say a Pep team got outpossessed by the opposition?
Yeah, I can't remember when that happened.
They just went completely against what he has always been, but it was the right tactic to do it this way. Because when you think of how both teams have been playing, even though Arsenal, we'll talk about them, they've hit a bit of a rough patch, but still City have not been flying. And to play this way, I don't know, I thought it was a stroke of genius, one that I'm sure Pep Sol didn't want to do, but maybe he's just been riled up to the point where, you know what, I'm going to lean into this character. I'm gonna do the heel. I'm gonna be the villain that you all want me to be.
You know what? Do you remember I love how you made the point that like sort of not that Arsenal was stunned, but like they may be surprised by Pep's tactics, and I thought back to, do you remember the McGregor Mayweather match? And look, some people disagree, but a lot of people do say that McGregor won the first 4 rounds, right? And he looked very good in the first 4 rounds if you look back at it. And I think if people rewatch it now, you'll be like, yeah, like in the first 4 rounds, like McGregor belongs in this ring. In McGregor's post-match analysis, he said that after that, Mayweather changed his tactics. Like, what's his usual? It's like that Philly stance, is it? Where he's like off the shoulder with, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the shoulder
yeah.
roll.
So McGregor was saying that like he practiced for certain styles, but the one style that he didn't expect and practice for was that sort of Mexican style where you put two hands up and you just sort of put your head down and go forward. And Mayweather adjusted his game to do that, and that caught McGregor off guard. And for some of this game, I was thinking, like, Man City are allowing so much possession and like I saw them playing with a high block, especially in the second half, but they weren't really pressing or counter pressing. But they had a high block instead of that low block for Arsenal to like dominate in their own attacking half. So they were just like, all right, we'll set up a high block and we'll just allow your defenders to have possession, and we'll cut off the passing lanes to Odegaard, to Xhaka, and to Nketiah, to Saka, like make it, and Martinelli. And make it that if you do want to hit them, you have to go over the top of our midfield. And like I felt at times like when like Saliba or Gabriel got on the ball, and like these players at the back got on the ball, and like they don't know what to do with it. Like they were sort of stunned. They're like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, because they weren't being pressed really either. Like on occasion when they got to a certain point, they were pressed, but when they're on the edge of their own box, they weren't pressed. They're like, City were just like, we're just going to sit here, and then once you move forward, then we'll press you. And that, do you agree with that assessment, or did you see it differently?
I think I agree with that. I think as you're going through it, I'm thinking how I'm torn between how much credit I want to give Pep for this, whereas some people might not want to give him credit for going to this style of play. I'm torn between that, or was it his reaction to what he saw from Arsenal? And that goes into the point of why I might push back against those headlines that you gave me at the start. Because in many ways, for Pep to do this either as a pre-game tactic, where I thought they still went pretty direct in the first half, but I thought they were still trying to play out from the back. But one thing you can't deny that they did in the first half was they time wasted.
Yeah,
they time wasted. They were worse than Newcastle.
That was not a Pep
team.
They
were, and that's not a Pep thing. Pep normally wants to go out there and beat you. So I thought in that Pep definitely wanted to make it ugly in that too. But in terms of the football tactics of it, I thought it was a little bit of the change, because in the first half I thought Pep was still trying to bring Bernardo Silva inside. And what that does when he wants to shapeshift between phases of play, when he has the ball, when he doesn't have the ball, when you want to do that, you have to wait for that player to get into position. So a lot of the time, Edison was just waiting on the ball. But then Arsenal already have everything set up. Whereas sometimes if Bernardo Silva just stays as a left back, you could just switch out the play to his side and then you can go forward again. But I don't think City this season want to do that. And they definitely didn't want to do that in this game at the Emirates against Arsenal. But I thought they were still trying to make that shape. Whereas in the second half, even the first 10, 15 minutes, I couldn't really tell when Bernardo was still playing as the left back. And then the big change was taking off Riyad Mahrez, putting Bernardo Silva further up the pitch, which led, I thought, to that block feeling higher and more passing angles and cutting off more passing lanes, because I think Bernardo Silva's just so much better at doing that than Riyad Mahrez. And then putting, I guess, another defender back there and Ake sort of marshalling Saka, because Bernardo Silva was obviously having a rough time of it in the first half. But yeah, it was just, and so I'm torn, because I think football wise he changed it a little bit. It wasn't his exact game plan, but in terms of wanting to make the game ugly, I thought he definitely did that. And on the Arsenal point, I think if we shift this to Arsenal now, if we're being brutally honest and we want to go sensationalist, Arsenal played like a team who looked like they were chasing top four, and they didn't look like a team who were chasing the title, because while City conceded that to this point, Arsenal have been the better team, and they conceded that through their tactics, Arsenal didn't live up to that billing, because they were given chances to, and you could see how tentative they were around the box. Eddie and Nketiah, so many misses on this night.
Those two headers.
Granit Xhaka playing more to his level pre this, rather than this run of form. Martinelli's been off the boil a little bit ever since we did Rashford v Martinelli. Martinelli's been off the boil. Yeah.
Just while we're on Martinelli, have you noticed that like he's not playing? He's not actually stretching the play, and he's not playing out wide. So, like he's coming into the middle a lot, like without the ball. Whereas before he was actually sticking to the touchline, and he was creating that space and that width. Whereas now, yeah, he's coming inside. I don't know whether those are instructions from Arteta, because you don't see Trossard doing that. You see Trossard doing what Martinelli used to do, which is using the width of the pitch and trying to isolate the right back 1v1. So these must be instructions from Arteta, because I don't know, like Martinelli wouldn't just go out on his own and be like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. Like he'd stick to the instructions.
I'm not gonna say that he goes out on his own intentionally.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
We are at a point of the season where maybe the message just gets a little stale, and you revert just in key moments. You revert back to your natural tendencies. And my point is that I think Gabriel Martinelli wants to be a striker ultimately at the end of the day. So I think he's always wanted to drift inside a little bit more. And my fix, especially given, well, it's probably my prejudice against Eddie Nketiah, but in recent weeks, I just don't trust him. So is there a chance to up your pressing game by putting Trossard on the wing and putting Martinelli up front, and then you can put more pressure on City's backline?
I was thinking
because Nketiah definitely, yeah, and Nketiah definitely lacks in that pressure, and when he's not finishing the chances, he just doesn't really give you all that much. To be fair to him, he does win the penalty, so that's credit to him. But I just thought too many Arsenal players played to that level. Gabriel makes a mistake that costs a goal. That's what we expect to see, and they just looked like a team that were playing more at the level we expected to see at the start of the season, rather than the one they set for themselves at the start of this season.
Yeah, like.
Or to the halfway point, to be fair to them, not just the start.
Do you think that was a penalty?
It's one of those 50-50s. Could be given, could not.
Yeah, because
I'm fine with it being given, because Edison is kind of still jumping forward.
He's still in the air when he's making contact with him. Like,
if Edison was just jumping up and Nketiah ran into him, then no. But because Edison's momentum's just going forward a little bit, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, like it's different to the Livakovic one against Argentina, because Livakovic was actually planted, so the forward actually ran. Whereas Edison was still fully in the air when he made contact into Eddie. But
did you like Saka taking it?
Oh, I love that! Like Edison just being he became the ultimate villain. Like, because he was time wasting. He got the early yellow card for time wasting, which.
Not early enough. I thought he could have got one before that, to be fair.
But do you think the penalty should have actually been a second yellow card? Because he made contact fully in the air, and like you could say that he didn't have control of himself. Like, I know he didn't come in the studs or anything. I'm not going there with you. No way. But I've seen like yellow cards be given. Like maybe because that was going to be a second yellow card. Like, if that was going to be his first yellow, then maybe it would have been given. But, like, to give him a second yellow card for that, I think the ref was a little bit hesitant to do that. So, that's probably why it wasn't shown. But I've seen, like, yellows be shown for that to goalkeepers.
I'm not going there with you. No way is that a second, especially a second yellow.
Look,
I think, your point. Yeah,
I think there is a talking point there. Bernardo Silva also should have got a yellow card much earlier. He got it after like his fifth tackle on Saka. Yeah. So it sort of reverts back to the point that Saka isn't being looked after enough, and like he's copping all these tackles and. But what City didn't do, strangely, with Saka, which a lot of other teams do, is like they sort of switch out the defenders to tackle him. So like basically one player puts like 2 or 3 tackles on, and then like you know usually the referee allows 2 or 3 tackles, and then on the last one he's going to give a yellow. So and then they switch to another player. Whereas like this was Bernardo Silva constantly fouling him, so it was slightly a different tactic. But yeah, to your point, I think at least in the first half. Barring the mistake, I thought Arsenal were on top of City, and the momentum was definitely on their side. Like, especially once City began the obvious hardcore time wasting and the crowd started really getting onto it, that's when I'm like, the momentum's completely shifting. But yeah, man, the two mistakes, man, like, yeah, if
Jorginho was good in the first half.
Yeah,
let's stick on the positive.
Look,
I thought first half. I completely agree. The first half they were dominant. They should have gone in ahead, but they make a mistake, and
that's
1-1.
And that's another thing. Like,
by the way, great goal, Kevin De Bruyne. What a finish!
Yeah, it was
left foot over the keeper. It was a nice goal.
Yeah, he showed Tomiyasu how to use his left foot properly.
Yeah, I know. And he was running full pelt as well. He didn't even break stride.
Yeah.
Oh, he's crazy. He's crazy good.
But you know what? Like, I don't think Partey was missed in this game. Because it's not like City City never punished Jorginho. When Jorginho did go on the ball, he didn't misplace it. He intercepted the ball a couple of times in the first half, like from I think like 2 or 3 times from Kevin as well. Kevin should have been sent off, man. That push on Arteta, man. Like he could have killed him. He could have sent him to the hospital.
Arteta should have been sent off for that.
If
Managers
that was
should never insert themselves.
If that was but it was in his technical area though. If it was outside the technical area, I'd agree with you.
He flicks the ball away from him, mother.
No, he doesn't. He sort of just takes a touch, like he wants to. It's the midfielder's instinct that he wants to, like, on the half turn, you try to take the momentum of the ball and run with it. It was just instinct. Xavi did almost the exact same thing, but the thing is that it was actually Barcelona's possession. If you noticed it last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kev should have been sent off for that. Like, could have killed him. If that was Van Gaal would have done that flop.
That is a great moment.
Yeah. The Van Gaal flop. If Arteta was more...
He's still holding on to the clipboard.
If Arteta was like 60 years old and more experienced, he would have flopped. He needs to get that in his game.
Man.
Did
you even make? Well, what were we talking about? The first half.
The first half, and Jorginho, Jorginho, I thought, he definitely, like, you know how some people be like, oh, Partey didn't play, like, he wasn't missed. So that I don't think we can use that as an excuse. I think what we can use as an excuse is a little bit of maybe not naivety, but like with the two mistakes, like Tomiyasu, like, you're going back to goal. It's on your weaker foot. It's like around waist height, so it's an awkward height. You're being pressured. Yeah, just knock it out for a throw. You're already there on the touchline. You just need to tap it out. Like,
that's to be fair. That's not the mentality Arsenal play.
Yeah,
and that's part of what's made them so good this season.
Yeah, but that's also what led to the two mistakes, and then also Gabriel. Like, what's one of the first things you're taught as a kid? It's like, play the way you're facing. And he tried to just play like a blind pass behind him, like on the half turn. It's like, man, like, I don't think
Gabriel for you.
I don't think Haaland was even running towards Ramsdale either. So, like, he could have played it first time to Ramsdale, or he could have taken a couple of touches back towards his goal and then found a pass, like a little bit more.
I might be ultra critical here as well, but I thought the third goal Gabriel could have done better. It's like he didn't expect the Haaland shot. Like, he didn't expect
I need to see.
He was right there, and he sort of like goes to pass it out because he thinks it's rolling to him, and Haaland just gets his right foot around it and puts it in. It's like, you got to know who that is. He's going to get his shot away.
Maybe it's because Haaland's a left footer.
Yeah,
maybe
he can finish with both feet in the box.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's been good to this point. But I'm interested because we're talking about, like, the fact that I think we both agree, especially in the first half, Arsenal were the better team. I would hesitate to say City were the better team in the second half, but not by that much. And it was through anti-Pep football. Like, so they had to sort of change their ways to do it. What's the message here going forward? So you did a bit of role play with me at the start with the headline. Let's do a little bit of role play. I'm sitting in the dressing room. I'm an Arsenal player. Maybe I'm Martin Odegaard or something like that. And I'm just waiting for the gaffer's address after the game. What are you telling us, Mikel, after that one?
Fucking Ivan Toney. Nah, you know what? You know what?
The De Bruyne memes or something.
Like he's gonna show. You should show the photo of. You know what? Someone actually put in the comments like that. Someone when Pep was at Barcelona, someone from Real Madrid did that to Pep. Like they pushed him. Like back when it was like the Mourinho days and it was like the heated rival, and all of the players got around Pep and like created a commotion. He's like, and then I'm like, I think I remember that happening. Like I'm sure that happened. Like knowing what the rivalry was back then. It's like, but yeah, like none of the players actually, from memory, none of the players actually got in Kev's face. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. He's
put absolutely nothing, as they should not.
I reckon they should have.
Closely with him, they're like friends and stuff. Come on.
Nah, I reckon they should have. Like you're chasing the title. You want to make a statement, mate. And if Pep's gonna make it ugly with the football and the time wasting, you then need to make it ugly and also back up your manager as well. So I think the players missed that opportunity with that point, and they could have gotten the crowd even more involved as well if they did that. So I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Is that what you're telling us, Gaffer? Are you telling us we've bottled it?
Defend me.
I'm not full of confidence if I'm Martin Odegaard hearing this.
No, it's not what I was saying. But like,
tonight.
But look, I'd probably just be telling them, look, like, we need to reset after this. We need to go back to basics. We need to analyze what actually got us to this point and come out of our shell. Like, it feels like over the last 3 games, they sort of went into their shell and they're not playing as expressive or as... I'd say they're playing a little bit more risk averse in the last 3 weeks. Like they're not trying to push forward as much and try to play quicker and try to create as many chances. And that was their game. Like play at a high tempo, play at a high speed, push forward, attack. And I'm not move the ball quickly. I'm just not seeing that at the moment over the last 3 games. And they need to go back to that. What actually got them to this point. I know it requires a lot of energy, a lot of concentration, but they've shown that they can do it for half a season. So, yeah, they need to just revert back to what got them here and come out of their shell, essentially.
It's interesting.
Especially maybe not so much this Man City game, because Man City played differently to the way Brentford and Everton played, whereas that like they played with a really low block.
Did they?
They did to an extent. They did.
Were in the first half, and
yeah, but the thing is,
nothing they did was with the ball to the point as well. So
yeah,
it was everything they did well was without the ball.
But the thing is, like against more so against Brentford and Everton, I saw that they had a lot of possession, but they were just moving the ball too slow, and they just weren't playing with that high intensity and that energy that I'm used to seeing from them. So yeah, they need to revert back to that and not play so scared, I'd say.
Yeah. And I guess you could kind of understand. It's hard. How much emphasis do you want to put on this game? If I was Arteta, I wouldn't be putting a bucket load of emphasis on this game.
You just need to reset and forget.
Well, you know what I'd do? I'd actually take it as praise. I'd be telling the boys, look at how they had to play to think that they could beat us. So we just need to find those levels. Like you say, I think I agree with that as well. Just find those levels going forward, because look at the way we were putting away teams for the first half of the season. So as long as this doesn't seep in from this point on, and to your point, the reset, I think that's very important. And if this doesn't seep into their games against lesser opponents, they've already played a lot of big games this season. And obviously they've won a lot. And they've got another chance to go to City. It's not impossible to win there. Brentford have already shown it.
Yeah.
So... And if they have Gabriel Jesus back at that time, or if Arteta makes the tweak maybe that we were talking about just before, and they find ways. They maybe have Thomas Partey. He does make a difference in that game. Then things could be different at the Etihad. So I'm looking forward, and I'm just thinking. I think a lot of people, and I think the sense is doom and gloom. But I guess maybe because we waited so long for this game and we placed so much importance on it. And I said, coming into this game, I couldn't think of many other games that I thought would give us so many answers like this game would. But in fact, after watching how the game unfolded, I don't think I really got the answers that I thought I would get by the way this game was played and by who came out on top. Because the main factor that shocked me was City played the way they did. So if they have to make that concession, they're putting Arsenal up on that pedestal. It's up to Arsenal to get themselves back to that pedestal now and show why to this point, barring the last 3 games, and especially probably this game, but barring the last 3 games, why they have been far and away the best team in the country. And if they could do that, then I would say they'll still win the league, because City, this performance doesn't tell me that City are ready to go on a run. This performance tells me maybe City are ready to capitalise on maybe Arsenal feeling like this thing is done and it's seeping into their next fixtures and them dropping more points where they shouldn't drop. Maybe that's a possibility. But it doesn't tell me City are ready to win like 14 in a row from this point. Because I don't think they're that kind of team. I don't think, especially, like I think we talked about on the last pod as well, especially if they've timed their run this early and they get to the top of the table, but they're still pretty much the best part of halfway to go. So like now they're the ones being chased and that psychology flips again. So for me, I don't see City going on that type of crazy run where they just close it out from here. Maybe they do, and prove me wrong, because it is Manchester City after all, but I don't see it to this point. And I still give Arsenal every chance of this title race. I don't think it should be seen as the be-all and end-all. Now, if City went there and played their normal style and won convincingly, then maybe that would tell me, you know what, they've got Ruben Diaz back in the team. They've got Kyle Walker back in the team. I know they got rid of João Cancelo for some inexplicable Pep not getting along with him reason. But they've got these players back in the team. It looks more like a City team. Maybe they're ready to go on a run. But this performance didn't tell me that at all. So I wouldn't be too pessimistic if I was an Arsenal supporter.
I don't think I am at the moment, because, like, you know how everyone was saying, like, 3 games ago when there was an 8-point lead, and it was like, there were people saying that, oh no, like, the title race isn't over, like, there's still half a season left to go, and then some people were like, oh, it's over, like, there's an 8-point lead. It's like, well, no, it's not over. Like, do you remember back in that first City title win, like the Aguero moment? From memory, I'm pretty sure there was a 16-point swing. So City were ahead by 8 points. They dropped those 8 points. Not only did they drop those 8 points to bring it to be level with United, United then went 8 points above them. And then, so there's actually technically like a 24-point swing, not 16, because then United dropped 8 points and then City were level with them again.
I think you're right with 16, but yeah, it was a crazy swing, because you're right. It was 8 points clear City. They started the season like a house on fire. Then they hit a slump, and then United, to your point, well, I think we're 8 points clear with 5 or 6 games left. But the kicker was they played each other, so City won that game with a company header. Boy, Company came up with some big title winning goals, didn't he, in his time there? And then I think United drew with like 4-4 with Everton at home as well in the run-in. So, yeah, that was obviously that was the craziest title race we've ever seen. And about to be null and void. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, maybe Fergie gets another one back just to screw. So, like, technically, it would be screwed into your hearts a little bit more, or maybe it wouldn't. Yeah, it would. But yeah, like the title race isn't over. Like, and if we win our game in hand, we're 3 points above them again. So, like, it's definitely by no means over. So I don't like. It's not all doom and gloom. Like, and for instance, we go back last season. Last season, Arsenal had a 3-game blip, and then in the next 3 games, they beat Chelsea, United, and a very good West Ham team. So, like, when West Ham were actually challenging for top 4, and they were also in the Europa League, like, quarters or semi-final or something like that at that point. So, Yeah, like it's
The problem,
it happens.
yeah, the problem is if Arsenal go back to that team, the top four title, like the top four chasing team, like you bring up the reaction, which was great, but there was the three results came against Palace, Brighton, and I
Southampton.
forget who the last Southampton. So like that kind of thing can't happen again. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they react. Because this, if you want to go the other way, this was the biggest fixture of the season at home as well. So it is a kicker. Oh, what was I going to say? I forgot. I've completely forgotten what I was going to say about. Take over here. It was about.
Now look, I think we can sort of wrap a bow on this one for the moment, unless you can remember.
Oh, no. Okay, I wanted. Yeah, I did want. I had something to wrap the bow with. I just wanted to point this out and flag this. Since Pep's post-match press conference after the Tottenham game, Arsenal have only taken 4 points from a possible 12. I just want to flag that. I think that when all is said and done, if City win this title, that is the moment that we'll look back on, and that's where he began. The mask was above his head, and that's where it began to lower. And then this game was the culmination of it, where it finally dropped on him. But also, it is one. It just, this whole thing has a feel of Pep doesn't believe City can win the title through their football, so we have to prey on some hopefully naivety in Arsenal. Which, when you look at the squad age, you can see why you'd try and prey on that.
But also, just want to quickly ask you, how much did the Brentford result weigh on this game? Because, and on the minds of the players, because the whole week, or like the whole half week, they were feeling that they were robbed, and the referees committee actually contacted them and apologized and said we fucked up. So those whole 3 or 4 days, they were like, man, we should be 8 points clear, not or whatever, 5 points or whatever it is, and now like we're only 3 points clear. It's like, and we were actually robbed in this fixture, and like that maybe it would have been playing on them in the back of their minds, especially when the game was like at 1-1 and like when the pressure got a little bit too high. Maybe it would have kicked in. Who knows? Well,
I mean, that's just a stroke of luck on Pep and City's side, if that's the case, that something like that happens. But it also goes into the naivety if that is the case. If that's happened at all. And honestly, like, it's a decent theory, because if you look at the demeanor of Mikel Arteta, you can see how they might feel aggrieved for a while after something like that. So if that's the case, you've got to get over it, because this is like we keep saying, the biggest game of the season is coming up. So I don't know if I saw that. And to the flip side as well, like, I think I genuinely think if Arsenal win this game convincingly, that I'm ready to all but declare them as title winners with a game in hand. So that's just how fickle it is as well, because if they take advantage of the pressure in the first half, maybe get themselves into halftime 1 or 2-0 up, this game's completely different. So yeah, I would hope that wasn't the case, that they were riled up by the decision for longer than they should have been. But yeah, again, I'm looking at it down the middle. I don't know which path we're gonna take from this point. There's so many paths to take for the rest of the season, and maybe there'll be some unforeseen path that I haven't seen yet. But I think we've tried to lay out the options for what might happen, and we'll just see which way it goes. And I'm fascinated.
Yeah, if only Eddie hit that header in the first half. Like,
what a cross from Zinchenko as well, who had a pretty ordinary game. He played down to his level. Yeah, as well, the cross was great.
But I'm just thinking with that header, like, why he didn't go back across where it came from. Instead, like, he was already on the position on the second post, and he's trying to flick it towards the second post. Like, he was positioned already more towards that side, and then you're trying to go for the far side. It's like,
it's because it's Eddie and Nketiah.
Yeah, it's like, and the cross came in pretty quick as well. So like, if you go back to where it came from, like put it back across the,
it's got all the pace on it.
It's got all the pace on it. The keeper's wrong-footed as well, because he's traveling to his left.
What might have been ifs and buts? Don't reminisce.
But
But
Jesus wouldn't have got to that header because he's shorter than him, so I don't think he would have made that leap. So there's also that point to make.
Would Martinelli have got to it?
I think so. Yeah, he's pretty good in the air.
Ah, damn.
I think he has a really good leap. So yeah. Anyway, let's. I guess we just need to keep track of it. See how the title. At least now we have an interesting title, or what could be an interesting title race. So long as it stays like within a marginal, these two teams stay within a marginal distance.
It's got so many layers.
Yeah.
Like we haven't even touched on the Pep v Arteta thing. Like we haven't. Then it's got the mind games aspect thrown into it. City being questioned, being doubted, and Arsenal being so young. Yeah, so many layers. Fascinating one.
Yeah, let's see how it all unfolds. But there were some other interesting games midweek. Would you say this is probably like one of the best midweeks that we've had like this season?
For recent memory,
yeah. There were some big games.
Yeah, definitely. Big games.
Yeah. Oh, also, I think I've noticed that you've been saying Club Brugge.
Or Brugge.
Or
Club
Brugge.
I think we brought this up last time I said it.
I always say Bruges. And I think they even brought it up on one of the English punditries, like someone. No, I think it was on TalkSport. I think for Simon Jordan and Jim White, they say Bruges because like they always grew up saying Bruges. But then in recent times, people have been saying Brugge. Here in Croatia, like we say Briž, so it's more the ž, so Bruges. So I've always grown up saying Bruges. So everyone's saying Brugge, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. Let's just put that stamp of authority on right now. But we won't start on that game. We'll touch on that game.
Oh, we won't? Oh, no.
That's
probably the most fascinating thing that we'll say about that game.
or do you want to start with that game? Actually, let's get it out of the way. I'll let you take it away. Did you watch that game? Because I didn't.
I half watched it. Benfica looked pretty good. They were pretty comfortable in the game. I mean, Brugge, Briž, they had their moments of threatening a little bit. But yeah, no, not much to say. I mean, Chiquinho in midfield's doing his best Enzo impression. But unfortunately for Benfica, he's 27, so they probably won't get 100 mil for him. But yeah, Benfica should be nailed on, like we said last pod, to get out of this 2-0 away win. Looks all but that, and we'll see what draw they get in the quarterfinals. Because yeah, like I keep saying, a good shout to be a dark horse given how open the competition is. And yeah, they looked pretty good in this game. Rafa Silva was really good in the first half. I'm always impressed by him, although I think he's 30, if not 29. So he's not the profile that most of the big clubs around Europe are looking for. But maybe if you're looking for a bargain, he's one to look at because he's capable of unlocking a door at any moment. I thought, like I keep saying, I thought him and Enzo were Benfica's standout players whenever I watched them this season. So he had another good game. Gonzalo Ramos is still there and he's still a good striker. And, you know, Florentino has a good game in holding midfield. So Benfica basically are still a really solid team, despite losing maybe the crown in their jewel in their midfield. But yeah, good shout for a dark horse to maybe go semis if the draw opens up for them. And hey, once you're in the semis, anything can happen. So yeah, watch that space. They're still a good team. That's basically what I take away from that.
And your next pick of the 4 games?
Oh, you want me to take it over?
Yeah, you take it over. I'm giving
do you want to leave the big one till last, like we did last time with Bayern PSG, or do you want to get into it now? Your juice is flowing for that one.
Well, in the UCL topics, because we're still going to talk about Barca United. But yeah, we'll leave that one for last.
Let's get the second shittest out of the way then. And Milan Tottenham was quite uninspiring.
Yep.
But I thought it was interesting how you see them both play 3-4-3, and I thought that made the game very easy to analyze because you basically just ask the question, which player in the positions for the game has been better than their direct opponent? Well, not their direct opponent, but their opponent in the same position on the opposite side. So Rafael Leao, when you compare him to Heung-min Song in this game, no contest. Leao killed it. Giroud and Kane was... You'd probably even give it to Giroud but it was a 50-50 at worst for Milan. Theo Hernandez versus whichever wing back you give me for Tottenham is always going to be Theo Hernandez, even though he's not in great form. But he obviously has a big part in that goal. And the thing I always have loved about Theo Hernandez is how physical he is. Like he is super quick, super strong, can leap, can make the difference not only by being a good footballer, but make the difference by just being a physical presence and nuisance. And that's what he does for the goal, because let's not forget, he outjumps Christian Romero in that. And that's probably Spurs' best defender. So you somewhat cut the head off the snake with that sort of move. And he's wearing the captain's armband, so he makes a difference in this game. It wasn't his best game, but he still makes the difference that sees Milan have the 1-goal lead. I thought Brahim Diaz had a good game, probably outplayed Kulusevski as well. The midfield, even though Tonali again is not in great form, probably is the best midfielder on the park. But it doesn't help when you're missing Højbjerg and Bentancur. Obviously, we didn't touch on the Højbjerg suspension, but he was obviously a big loss in this one. So Milan just had pretty much nearly all their players outplay their direct opponents in this game, and I think that's why they got the win. But when I say outplay, it wasn't like they had to reach crazy levels to do that. And this is basically what we expected the tie to be going in, and that's how it played out in the first leg. But it's still on a knife edge. 1-0 is a good result. It sets up the second leg very nicely at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I flipped it after the first leg to go with Milan and change it from Tottenham. It was pretty much a 50-50 anyway when we were analysing it, or previewing it. But yeah, I still hope Milan get through. I'm more excited by more of Milan's players, but they're slowly maybe reaching those levels. Hopefully this win gives them more confidence and those players get back to playing like the players they were in the title winning side last season. So, but yeah, probably the second worst tie of the four. Well, definitely for me.
Yeah, it was... I think it was sort of along the lines of what we said in our pre-match, where whatever team is not the worst team will go through. and they were sort of even, but I would say that Milan does look better. And
just a bit more threatening.
Yeah, and
especially when Kane is marshalled how he was.
Yeah, and I think that with Milan they have a higher ceiling than Tottenham for playing better football, at least.
Well, all right, but we need to address something when we say this, because let's not forget, this guy gets forgotten. And I don't know if I want to hang stick on him because he seems like such a likable guy. But Son, man, where is Son this season? Where is he? Like, if he was playing well with Kane, then maybe, like, can we say that Milan have a higher ceiling after that? Probably not. They probably have... Tottenham might have a higher ceiling if Son is world-class Son. He's just nowhere near that level this season, and it's... As a football fan, it's kind of sad to see. I mean, as a Liverpool fan, trying to overtake them in the Premier League, it's great to see, but on the football side of it, not so much, because, yeah, when Son's flowing, he's obviously a world-class player, I think, but I'm close to revoking that title from him. He's got to show us something this season.
We haven't seen him since that hat-trick at Leicester, right?
That's it, man. I think he might have only scored one other goal in the league or something this season. It's madness.
Well, hopefully
you can tell by my voice how perplexing I'm finding it. Like, where did it come from?
Like,
he was top scorer in the league last season.
Yeah, and also, didn't they last season they broke the record for combinations of assists and goals between a partnership? Yeah. So they Kane and Son hold the record for that too, and like this season, I think that is part of why Tottenham are faltering, because they don't have that deadly combination up front. That's definitely, it's not the bigger reason, but it's definitely it's a big enough contributing factor. I'd say that, but it's not the sole reason.
Well, when teams load up on Harry Kane, you need Son playing well, you need Kulusevski playing well, and he's cheekily been a little out of form since he came back from injury as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Maybe I might flip it to Milan, but it's on a knife edge this time.
What injury did Son have? Like, it wasn't too serious of one, but it was enough to keep him out.
It was like a facial. It was the facial injury. He came back pretty soon after. But
you know what though? Have you ever broken a bone?
I might have done my nose, but it wasn't bad enough to have to go and to get anything done.
All right. Well, I remember when I broke my I broke my collarbone when I was 13. And, like, it took me a good, like, after I recovered, it took me, like, a good year to start going into, like, 50-50 challenges. Like, just from that mental standpoint, even though it was fully recovered and everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I just had that slight hesitation. So maybe he has that. Like, he's like, I don't want to break my face again or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
I won't quite give him that, just because I think it was pretty close to the World Cup break when he did it. Because I thought he'd be out for the World Cup after he did it.
Yeah,
and obviously he came back. So great to see that courage. And obviously this is why you don't want to hang shit on him. But
it might still be there. It might be lingering.
But yeah, now you could use that. But before, I don't know what the excuse was why he wasn't performing.
Who knows really? But the Son that we're used to seeing, it's that aggressive, fast-paced, sort of like not like proactive, not reactive. Whereas now, like, if you're sort of thinking about, I don't want to get hurt, that you're going to be reactive, and you're going to have that
and I'll also
half a second.
I'll
slowness.
also say And I'll also say, sometimes, to me, in my eye, he tries a little too hard.
Maybe
he doesn't get his head up a little early enough and look to link up and then make runs. He's trying to do it all himself. So, yeah. But anyway, I think we're talking about two flawed teams. But at least should be an exciting second leg at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah, I still think that AC go through. I think they have a little bit more quality, and they showed that they can deal with Kane at least, and with the team in general. Although, like
for now,
Højbjerg's
keep a good man down for too long.
And Højbjerg's going to come back, so it's going to change. It's going to give a different dynamic to that midfield as well. It's going to give a little bit of muscle and a little bit of oomph to that midfield. So maybe it's going to be slightly different, it's going to be a different question. Maybe Højbjerg coming in and sort of not marshalling the midfield, but like giving that extra bit of muscle and extra bit of run in that midfield. Maybe it then opens up more space for Kane, because the midfield is playing in front of Kane that can like block off the passing lanes to him. They're going to be worried about Højbjerg now.
Yeah.
So could be interesting. I'm not ruling Tottenham out.
Definitely not.
But I still think that AC are the slight favourites, like maybe 55-45, like not major favourites, but like slight favourites.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. And the next interesting game.
Go Chelsea Dortmund or Dortmund Chelsea. Go on.
You know what? Especially in the first half, some of the moments that I saw between like Mudryk, João Felix, Havertz as well, not Ziyech.
Not Ziyech.
But I was
he's his own guy.
Like it was sort of like that trio, and then he was like the third wheel.
Yeah.
I can't say fourth wheel because fourth wheel makes sense. But it just felt like he was sort of out there on the right by himself when these guys were sort of combining in the middle and on the left-hand side. And in some of those moments, I was like, damn, like, back to what I was saying. If these guys can click, this is going to be dangerous. So, like, they might... And this game might have come, like, 2 weeks too soon or a week too soon, because there's Champions League fixtures next week. If they had next week, so if they had an extra week to prepare, an extra game to prepare... For this one, maybe they would get those combinations off and they would look that 5% more threatening, which they already look pretty threatening. But they just need to get that. It feels like they just need to put that final piece of the jigsaw in to make it all click, I guess.
Yeah, that's that clinical striker that they don't have.
Yeah.
But I think they could get by. I think to your point, it looks like Chelsea are a team who have the potential to run hot, particularly João Felix and Kai Havertz up front. But then they also have the potential to be somewhat wasteful, like they were in this game, which is disappointing because I'm totally with you, I thought. Oh man, Dortmund fans are gonna hate me. It's like, yeah, we'll come on to the show. Surely you'll heap some praise on Dortmund after this 1-0 win against Chelsea in the Champions League. No, I'm not here to do that. I thought Chelsea were thoroughly the better team in this game. I thought Dortmund were average at best.
It was pretty much Jude Bellingham and everyone else.
That's always Jude Bellingham and everyone else in that game. I mean, we've got to give props to Adeyemi for the goal.
That was a good goal.
I think. It was a great touch. The touch in particular was the thing for me.
Sliced up your boy.
He sliced him up, and then Kepa maybe could have anticipated it a little bit better, but it's harsh. It's harsh to put blame on Kepa.
I'm not putting any blame on
definitely
Kepa.
Should. Look, the thing I think more as a coach when I watch this, especially in an away leg of the Champions League, I start thinking like, you know what, if we have a corner, I'm just going to commit the three or four players that I was going to commit to the box anyway and leave my defensive structure intact behind the ball. I'm just going to keep my centre-backs back, keep my holding midfielder back. We don't need to chase this goal. 0-0 away at Dortmund. I fancy our chances to win at home. So I'm just starting to think, like, should there maybe be a shift in thinking? Because I know you could score from a set piece, and it's very possible. But it's also nowadays especially very possible to concede those lightning-quick transitions. And I don't want to leave Enzo... Yeah, exactly. I don't want to leave Enzo Fernandez on an island against Karim Adeyemi going full pelter goal. And that's what this game comes down to. It's not a tactical analysis of where Dortmund hurt Chelsea. It's just the fact that Chelsea were chasing something that is perfectly reasonable for in conservative or conventional thinking in football, go up for the set pieces. I'm just thinking, as a manager, I might look to change that, especially given the circumstances of this tie. And then as circumstances dictate, then you commit more and more players to the set pieces. But because in recent years, and Liverpool are a big exponent, to your point, of doing this, they've done to Arsenal a few times in recent seasons as well. So
hey, don't bring them into this.
The more we see of this, the more I just start thinking, look, do I just want to keep my defensive structure? And at the end of the day, that is what decides this game. That is why Dortmund get a 1-0 win. It's not because they were better than Chelsea. It was quite the contrary. And to our analysis, I think our preview was pretty decent on this one as well in terms of having a look at Chelsea's potential ceiling. And I think you could see it, to your point, in this game. But man, results are harsh, and I think that's what we've seen in this game, and I think that's what we've seen in a few games for Potter. But I think he needs to stick at it. Like I keep saying, keep it simple. You've got good players. I thought Koulibaly and Thiago Silva actually looked really good at the back together. I thought that was promising for them because, like we keep saying, names-wise at least, and Thiago Silva has played up to it. But if Koulibaly could get up to his level, then that is a very good defensive partnership. And then now it's got Reece James and Ben Chilwell. Like, you just look at that team; it's stacked. Even Loftus-Cheek again, I thought had a pretty good game in this one. But I don't know. Maybe Potter's working with him somewhat like Eddie Howe's been working with the Newcastle players. So yeah, I hope if the second leg looks like that again, I hope Chelsea are the team who get through because. Yeah, I'm a bit sick of Dortmund's act until they start showing me something that I can believe in. And I just don't believe in anything other than Jude Bellingham in that team, to be quite honest. And I gotta say Julian Brandt is playing pretty well. Nicolas Sula is a pretty good defender. Rafael Guerrero is a pretty good defender. But Marius Wolf is playing all right at right back, he's kind of like the new Kevin Grosskreutz. I know Klopp used to love Kevin Grosskreutz back in the day, the multifunctional, could play anywhere sort of guy. That's kind of what Wolf is. So at least they've got players playing with the confidence of a team on a 7 7-game winning streak. But I still don't like that midfield with Ozcan and Emre Can in there, and at least Jude Bellingham papers over the cracks. So, I don't know. I hope Chelsea go through if this second leg looks like it did in the first leg.
Yeah, just quickly while we're on Chelsea, Kante, Fernandes, and Kovacic. Do you play two defensive mids and then Kovacic in the 10, or how do you set up that trio?
Well, I think I would have if they were all available for this game. But maybe at home, now that I have to chase the game, I probably play exactly the same
I'm talking
way.
about in general, like not for this fixture specifically, but like they're your 3 best midfielders, correct?
They are, but
so how do you set them up?
You have a deficiency in scoring goals. Maybe Kovacic could evolve into a goal-scoring 10. I wouldn't put it beyond his skill set, that's for sure. But when you have this deficiency of goals, I think you probably do want João Felix and Kai Havertz on the pitch, as they have been doing in recent weeks. So maybe you have to choose 2 of the 3 there. But like I say, situation, you'd probably want to play all 3. But yeah, out of those 3, if I have to play one more advanced, Enzo's pretty good at it as well. Yeah, so you could go the 2-8 running off the false 9. The false 9's an interesting one because I think João Felix works better with a reference point. I don't know if he's... And Kai Havertz at least is further in his progression, although I don't love it. It's that position that's the problem area, really, for Chelsea, isn't it? So maybe Potter looks at sacrificing one of those 3 when they're all fit in the pursuit of getting more goals is I guess what I'm trying to think is what his thinking would be.
Chelsea need to bring Didier back out of retirement.
No, they need to get the new Didier.
Osimhen.
Victor Osimhen. Oof, man, they'd be frightening if they got Victor Osimhen up front.
Well, depending...
I hope they don't. I hope he stays at Napoli.
If UEFA actually do enforce this 5-year max contract rule, I don't think they.
I don't see how they can get him.
Yeah, I don't think. I think then Chelsea are pretty much handcuffed based on what they've done last summer and this winter window. So I don't think that they're going to be splashing the cash. If they do get 1 or 2 players, they're spending if they get 2 players, they're spending max 50 mil for both of them. I think I reckon this next transfer window they're going to be really handicapped if what UEFA is proposing actually gets brought in. I think it already is, but I could be mistaken on that. It might be that they're looking to bring it in. So yeah, maybe they get Osimhen, but I don't know. If
they do, and I hope they don't. But
I hope they don't either.
Yeah.
But onto the main event, I guess of the Champions League fixtures, at least not the main event of the show.
Nah.
PSG Bayern. You know what? When I was watching that game, as the game sort of evolved more and more, I was like, holy shit, Caleb is actually right. Bayern play as if Lewandowski is still there, but it's just Choupo-Moting. And
what do you mean is actually right? Like you're surprised about this?
But they still
what a dig.
But they still you're right. Like they still play as if Lewandowski's still on that team, and he's not. And if he was in this team playing in this game, I'm not saying he would have got a hat trick, but he probably would have been. It probably would have been 3 or 4-0. At least up until the point that Mbappe came on, because that changed the complexion of the game. Also, Mendes as well. I thought he got brought on as well, didn't he?
No, he started the game. But he got pushed up.
Yeah, he got. I felt like he got opened up. He got like a license to roam, basically. But yeah, like Bayern just seemed like they're lacking that number 9. They're lacking that Lewandowski or Osimhen or Kane. To put away the chances that they created in this game. Yeah,
I wasn't sure which one you'd go with for when you said I was
Oh
actually
yeah,
right
hang on.
whether it would be.
But you know what? You know how I said Bayern are capable, and like they've shown it plenty of times in the Bundesliga that they just put like 5 or 6 or 8 goals past the team. If this was in the Bundesliga against like a mid-table or lower table team, it would have been 5 or 6 goals. Like despite the lack of striker.
Interesting. I'm going to unpack that in a minute. But what I was going to say, I think the biggest point for me in terms of the big picture stuff, bigger than even the Champions League itself, was when you said I was actually right. I wasn't sure what you were going to go with. In my head, I had where you're going to go with that. This proves that Mbappe is the best player in the world. Not right now, but just in general. Like when I say, like there are different ways to categorize best player of the world. So, for example, I've been saying in recent weeks that Harry Kane is the best player of the world right now. That's on just form of like a month, 6 weeks, whatever it be. When I'm talking about like the overall throne, I'm talking about Kylian Mbappe right now because the fact that PSG couldn't start with it, and you said it, changed the complexion of the game. He really did, didn't he? It was just a completely different game when Mbappe came on because if we want to go back to the boxing analogy, and I'm disappointed in Bayern, and we'll touch on this, but if we want to go back to the boxing analogy, the first 15 minutes was Bayern coming out throwing haymakers, and then I thought in the first 15 minutes they should have realised PSG can't touch us. They can't hit us with anything. They're just throwing these crappy little jabs that just aren't. We should just walk through their punches and just go for the jugular. Because I thought in the first 5 minutes, PSG were genuinely shook by the intensity the Bayern were playing at. Because they don't see that. They don't get that in the French league. And to be fair, Bayern don't really get an intensity in the German league, but they insert the intensity themselves. Whereas PSG, more laid back, especially with Neymar and Messi up front, which obviously can hurt you. But I thought in the first 10 minutes there was a chance, I think, where Bayern might have lost the ball or PSG regained the ball, whichever one it was. There was a chance for Messi and Neymar to break. And João Cancelo actually got back from the right wing-back position and nipped in front of Neymar and did it easily. Neymar didn't even want to run after the ball. And I thought that was the moment where Bayern should have seen, this team can't hurt us. If they don't have Kylian Mbappe on the pitch, they've got nothing to hurt us if we push them back to the edge of their area. Because Neymar and Messi can't counterattack on us. And that's how we want to play anyway. We want to push them back to the edge of their area. And to the point as well, Neymar and Messi don't work particularly hard defensively. So it's going to be easy to get past their first line of pressure and push them back. And I thought they had the intention probably to do it in the first 15 minutes. And then they took their foot off the gas. And I thought they should have kept going at it because after the first 10, 15 minutes, I could see a 2 or 3-0 away at the Parc des Princes because I thought PSG looked pretty helpless in most of the first half, but particularly the early part of the first half. And then I thought Bayern just took their foot off the gas, and in taking their foot off the gas in the system and the style they play in, with pretty much an out-and-out back three, and lit in the first half. Like, did you notice how the back three was like rotating? Like 1 minute you'd see Pavard on the right centre back, and then he'd be the left centre back, and then he'd be the central centre back. I'm like, what's going on with this? Where's your structure? And it just, I don't know. I always use this word with Bayern. I always use this word with Nagelsmann, but it just seems arrogant to me. It just seems a bit arrogant. If you don't have the intensity to back up that arrogance, you're going to leave holes. And boy, oh boy, when Mbappe came on and they didn't change their game plan, my God, what were they thinking there? And Mendes started killing them as well. And you just think if they had a fit Hakimi as well in the second half, how different it could have been. But I thought PSG were good value to probably at least get a draw from this game. And it was it was because Mbappe came on the pitch, and it was because they didn't apply the necessary pressure I thought they should have. But, you know, all in all, I'm still talking about a team that just went away to the Parc des Princes and won 1-0 and now take PSG back home. But yeah, man, PSG, I mean, Bayern, they're disappointed for that reason. PSG without Mbappe are disappointing in so many ways, to be quite honest. Neymar is just, we've been saying it, but he's not there. He's not playing. I would drop him, honestly. I think he's detrimental to the team. So, Yeah, at least it's still in the balance. At least it's still exciting for that matter. And at least hopefully, given that it's probably a month or so away, we'll get Kylian Mbappe, and this tie for me becomes completely different because my takeaway point after saying all that about Bayern is Nagelsmann sort of seems like the spoilt child of the elite coaches at the moment. Like, and I'll put him in that bracket of an elite coach because he is a good coach. But he seems like he wants it now. He wants everything now, and he wants to keep the same system with 3 out-and-out defenders and then everyone else pushing forward, even when PSG get themselves back in the game. And it's just like, just use some attrition, man. Just defend a little bit because PSG really should have scored at the end. And he didn't change it, and he wanted to go. He wanted to keep playing this system, even though it was detrimental to the team. It just seems like he lacks the patience at times. I thought that's one of the reasons they came undone against Villarreal last season. And also, we'll touch on the Lewandowski point as well when we get to Barcelona. But I agree with your point, or I agree with our point. I guess you're echoing my point. But in terms of Lewandowski, they still play for a Lewandowski. But this might just be my eye, because there might be some stats that tell me otherwise. But for my eye, Lewandowski just doesn't seem like he's a big game player. Like in recent seasons, especially this season for Barca. I thought he was okay this morning. He had little glimpses, but we'll touch on him later. But yeah, I think that's maybe what undid them against Villarreal last season as well. So yeah, I don't know how much of a difference. I think they can play in a good way without Lewandowski, but yeah, it does still seem like they're playing like they have him in the side.
I think if they had Mane in the team, because at the start of the season they started playing a little bit differently. Like they didn't play as if they were trying to play for Lewandowski, but that was with Mane in the team, so they were starting to play a little bit differently. But yeah, like. Maybe if he comes back, we see something different. Also, on your point with Nagelsmann, I think did Stanisic come on before or after the Pavard red card? And he came on really late, like in like the 85th minute or like something like that. So and he's a right back, and so it took him like half an hour or 25 minutes of Mbappe being on the field and getting killed on that side for you to finally bring on a right back. So I guess that's backs up your arrogance point, and yeah, like maybe also on your rotating centre back point, you know how like, and it also touches on your Nagelsmann wanting everything now point. Maybe he wants to sort of, you know how like everyone talks about, oh, like Pep created like or brought back like the whole tiki-taka. He then, when he went to Bayern, he started bringing in the inverted fullbacks. And he's always like revolutionizing football. Nagelsmann maybe is trying to put his own stamp and trying to revolutionize football and bring in the next style, I guess, of football where you have rotating centre backs of a back three or whatever. So maybe he's trying to do that as well. So that plays into your arrogance point.
Yeah, I tried to look at it and see if there was a reason, and I couldn't come up with one in this game. And maybe if I continue to see it in the future, maybe it will become apparent to me. So I'm not saying it's stupid what he's done. It's something I don't really like to see. I like to see more discipline in my defensive positions and more regiment and them in more regimented positions. But also it goes to the point of players and who the players he's trying to do that with. And I think they're players that I'd rather simplify the game for in terms of all three of them, probably De Ligt, Upamecano and Pavard. I'd rather keep the game as simple as possible for them. If we were talking, and I made this point on, I think, my European roundup that I did by myself a few weeks ago. I see a lot of the Klopp influence in Nagelsmann, and that's an easy one to draw because obviously Klopp is the most recent sort of great German manager. So it's obvious that new German managers will take something from that. And a lot of managers all over the world have taken a lot from Klopp in recent years. But I see a lot of that in terms of committing a lot of players forward, because Liverpool have always committed. And we talked about it last season, the fact that they flipped the conventional style of a team on its head, where they were asking Virgil van Dijk, Fabinho and Alisson to be the stars of the team and do all this crazy one-on-one defensive work where he trusted them to come out of those battles on top more times than not. I think Nagelsmann wants to do that with this Bayern team, but the personnel isn't quite right for me. Kimmich doesn't impose like a prime Fabinho. I know we're not talking about prime Fabinho this season. We're not talking about that. But we're talking about when he was in his prime last season. He doesn't impose in the same way for me. Likewise, De Ligt doesn't impose like a Van Dijk. I think he probably should, and I've been a little disappointed with De Ligt's development in recent years, but he is still young as well, so he's got time. Maybe it's because that Ajax team just blinded us with Frankie de Jong and De Ligt and how good they were, and maybe it's been hard for them to reach those levels again. But yeah, I don't trust him like a Virgil van Dijk, and I don't trust Jan Sommer like an Alisson. So if you are trying to play in a similar way to that, then you're asking for trouble because of your personnel. You've got to play to your personnel, and I just think keeping it more simple, offering more cover, which I guess he does by putting an extra player there in Pavard. But yeah, I didn't like seeing the rotating centre backs. It just goes into my whole theories on Nagelsmann. And by the way, this doesn't by no way means that I'm out on Nagelsmann. I just think he's still got things to learn, and sometimes it gives me the impression that he needs to humble himself just a little bit. But he's so young. For an elite manager, he's like early 30s. It's crazy.
I think he's only a couple of years older than us, like 2 or 3 years older than
madness.
us. Yeah,
it's madness.
What are we doing with our lives?
Might criticize humble himself. He's manager of Bayern Munich, for fuck's sake.
we could do a better job. All right, so pretty much, do you still believe Bayern are going to go through though, or with a fully fit Mbappe, are they just going to get carved open?
Oh no, maybe carved. I don't know. Fully fit Mbappe makes this.
Because it looked like they were going to get... If that went on for another 10, 15 minutes, they especially considering they got the red card as well, they were going to get carved open. And if it wasn't for a couple, like a centimetre or two offside, I think then PSG would have actually ran away with the game and maybe won 2-1 or 3-1. If that goal went in.
They were right on top of them. Mendes, big shout out for him. He had a great effect on the game later on as well. And yeah, I think not only Mbappe, but Hakimi as well. If they can have a fit him, I don't know what the update is on Hakimi, obviously coming up. But if Bayern want to leave those spaces with that much pace, if you have Mbappe on one side who can threaten, and then Hakimi can join in, and Mendes could even join in the second wave as well, then yeah, this tie is far from over with a fully fit Mbappe. But if it's not a fully fit Mbappe, I think it goes the same way that we saw the same way in terms of Bayern dominating the game.
You know what? When Mbappe came on and they just started to take over the game, I'm like, hang on, I've seen this before. Where have we seen this before?
In the World Cup.
In the World Cup final, in the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we just see them just switch on, and then it's like, damn, they're starting to roll over this team. Yeah.
I am a big believer in football that speed kills.
Oh yeah.
You need speed. I've got the need for speed, man.
But I want to put an added note to it. It's not always just raw speed. It's sometimes bulldozing speed. For instance, Saka has speed, but he doesn't have bulldozing speed where he has that strength to add on top of that. Whereas Mbappe seems to have that strength as well.
It's the kind of speed where you have players clinging onto you and you're running through them. It's so powerful.
Yeah,
such a powerful driving run.
Yeah, Haaland has it. Henry had it. Messi had it as well. He doesn't have much speed now, but Messi had it.
Messi. You know what Messi's was? It was balance. It was elite balance. You could try and take him out, and he's just he's sort of running at your waist, but he's around you already. Yeah. It's oh man, what's this guy doing?
But yeah, once Saka gets that into his game, he's gonna build up maybe add a couple, just 2 or 3 kilos of muscle, not too much to actually deflate the speed, but I think he could get to that. But it's also different to Mbappe's speed. Mbappe's is very direct up until he gets into around the box, whereas Saka's isn't direct. Like it up until the box, he's going left and right, whereas Mbappe's direct to the box, and then he starts going left and right. So it's a slight difference. I prefer Mbappe's.
Yeah, but in terms of the speed itself, but in terms of the overall point, that for me, right there in a nutshell, is why I have Saka as Arsenal's best player, because of the speed. It's the weapon that frightens an opponent straight away. Technicians, they can hurt you, of course, but speed is something like, if you're in a mismatch against speed, there's not much you can do. It's frightening. Like, what's a fullback thinking in that game against these guys? It's like, what the hell am I meant to do? At least against technicians, it's like, well, I'm not going to be outmatched physically. I can still fight with them with my brain. But against speed, like, what are you going to do if you don't have it?
Speed kills.
Yeah, speed kills.
On that point, Man United, Barca, or Barca, Man United.
What a fun game, eh?
It was a fun game. And it sort of went along with our analysis as well, didn't it?
Well, in what way? I'm interested.
Where we said that, like, basically Man United would absorb the pressure. They'd use the size of the Camp Nou pitch to their advantage. Maybe not so much in the first half, but they did look threatening though at times, especially around that blitz when they actually got that first goal and they started believing that we can hurt this team. Up until that point, they were a little bit withdrawn, but they were still exploring and prodding and stuff. But like once they actually smelt blood, it's like that Predator quote: "If it bleeds, we can kill it." I think that is sort of where this United team is in their development period, where they don't quite have that full belief and confidence in themselves from the starting whistle, but they get into that confidence as they start to create chances throughout the game, and they start to believe, oh wait, we do have the personnel, we do have the players to actually hurt these teams. And then once they actually get their goal against these teams, then they're like, oh, okay, we can go on and like win this game and whatnot. Like, yeah, we can actually, like, we can kill it.
Yeah, I think United, if you look around the team, I think there's a lot of players you can be confident in now, which is something you haven't been able to say in recent years. You look at that team. De Gea has a really good performance. And just a side note, how good does a court save look off one of those strikes from distance where the keeper actually just catches it? It looks beautiful. A diving court save.
Oh, speaking of
sticks in the mitts.
Speaking of saves though, like the Ter Stegen save when Rashford cuts in and tries to put it towards the far post, and then he just like
on the side
puts
note,
it over with the one hand.
And I thought the one before that, the one-on-one save where he saved the shot, I think from Weghorst, who was trying to go between his legs. I think his technique in those one-on-ones is excellent, Ter Stegen. And if we're doing a side note, obviously the Rashford goal, and there's probably two things to take from this. The reason I have Ter Stegen as the best keeper in the world right now is when this is Marcus Rashford we're talking about, we'll talk about him as well because he's probably a player who's laying claim to start knocking on that world-class door if he could keep this up. But even though Rashford was going through, and we'll talk about why he was going through, which is a big no-no for me. I'm a bit annoyed about it. But even while he's going through, it's Marcus Rashford in great goal-scoring form. I'm just like, Ter Stegen has this. Like, Ter Stegen is too good in these situations. So I was shook when he got beaten in near post. And it was a great strike
from that angle. And there was no opening on that near post either. Like, how did he get it through?
I know, it was a great strike. It was in the only place that he could have scored. And I just thought Ter Stegen had it. It was like, nah, he didn't have it. So that's how good Rashford is at the moment. And he's another one in that United category. He is the main guy in the offensive sense that you look to. It's like, we can pretty much trust this guy now. I think he's done 22 goals in 35 appearances this season in all competitions. And that's taking into account a pretty slow start to the season. So that just shows you this run of form that is prolonging now for a while. And that's why we maybe need to start having those discussions. We'll see it at the end of the season if he can lead to United to that top 4 finish, which he probably should now. And maybe something in the Europa League as well, because I think they're in the box seat to go through now, which we'll probably touch on as well. But in the goal as well, if we're getting sidetracked by that. Man, Xavi. Why? Like, all right, maybe you expect Marcus Rashford to start on the left-hand side. So, all right, we'll put Araujo out as a right back because we want that 1v1 matchup. As soon as you see Rashford starting in the middle, hey, let's get Araujo back into centre back. Let's go 1v1 with that matchup. We can't let him run off Marcos Alonso, and that's exactly what happened for the goal. He ran off Marcos Alonso. If that's Araujo, I would bet my bottom dollar that he would affect that situation more than Marcos Alonso could affect that situation. Because he's so much quicker, he's so much stronger, he has so much better tendencies as a central centre-back because he's grown up playing that position. But why are you starting Marcos Alonso as one of your 2 centre-back? And it was interesting as well. And I didn't see the reason for it. Why did you change Jules Koundé and Araujo as right and centre-backs? Like, why was Araujo the right back in this game? Or why was Koundé the centre-back when it's been the opposite way around the whole season? I'd be interested to get what Xavi's thinking was, because I couldn't see it in this game. And it was annoying because the first goal, I think, comes from that. And I think Araujo could deal with that better. So it left me with question marks over. And also, we've got to say that United, in terms of gaining that confidence in this game, are hugely aided and abetted by Pedri getting injured and going off. What a disappointment that was. Yep. My God. And you know what? And you know what was disappointing later in the game? Gavi gets himself booked and he won't play the second leg. If they're missing, and that goes into the reason why I put United firmly in the box seat. Because this Barca team, while they haven't shown themselves to be good defensively in Europe this season, and this game goes into that again, it's not defensively that they have the problems in personnel. It's in the offensive sense, and it's disappointing. I know Lewandowski may, at least he can claim to have affected the second goal, the equaliser, and Barcelona fought their way back into the game. But Lewandowski, he's going to have to be better in the second leg for Barca to get through. He's going to have to rock up in one of these games, because I thought he didn't rock up in the Inter game in the group stages at home in the new camp. I thought he was a bit wasteful with chances. This game wasn't so much wasteful with chances, but I thought Varane did a pretty good job on him, and Lewandowski's going to have to do a little bit better. And Luke Shaw's another one who, well, I know he's playing in the centre-back at this game because Lisandro Martinez is out, but he's maybe the best left-back in the world on form. He has been really good since he came back. Remember, he didn't start the season. He didn't come into the team for ages. But ever since he got into the team, United, he's been a big helping factor of why United look so different and why they look like a team who are on the outskirts of, we got to say this now, they're on the outskirts of a title challenge in the Premier League. Admittedly, they don't get to play the teams above them, but who knows with City and maybe now Arsenal's deficiencies, but we'll talk about that maybe after the weekend. But definitely favourites for me to get through this tie now. If they're without Pedri, and we know they're without Gavi, but Pedri's such a huge loss. Oh, so disappointed. So yeah, I unpackaged a lot about this game, I think. But yeah, it was a fun game overall. And I don't know, what are your takeaways from all of that? If you want to look forward or whatever.
No, I think it was an enjoyable game. I think you're right. If Pedri and Gavi, or Gavi is missing, but if Pedri is missing as well, who comes into that midfield then? What, Sergio Roberto?
Exactly. But you know what the problem is? It's Barcelona, and credit to Xavi. I know I roasted him a bit, but Barcelona have sort of changed their balance so that Gavi and Pedri are playing more as attackers, and they're helping Lewandowski more with the build-up. So now it's not so much the midfield. Who comes into that attack? An attack where I think sometimes it can struggle to score goals.
Where's Dembele?
They doesn't have those players. Well, yeah, I think he's also injured. That's why Rafinha's been playing a lot, and they've been playing with this sort of system. And can they get the service to Lewandowski? Because obviously they have one of the best strikers in the world. But without that creative force of Gavi and Pedri in there, oh man, that becomes a really tall task against, like we keep saying, a United team who are who are dependable now. They're somewhat dependable, and they got performers who you can hold accountable, and they look good for it. As much as it pains me as a Liverpool supporter, as a football fan, I'm enjoying watching United. And talk about crazy, players playing in crazy positions. How's Wout Weghorst as the central midfielder next to Fred, man? We'll see him pop up at right back pretty soon, I reckon. He's got to be used as that type of player. But I thought he did a solid, if unspectacular, job in there. But gets through his work, and I think Ten Hag can trust him in any position.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
It's important for managers to have those type of players.
Yeah, I think that's what it seems like to me. Like he was brought in because Ten Hag can trust him, not because of necessarily his quality, and to bang in 20 goals or whatever for United, like you would expect of a striker. But also a small added point. Barca can't seem to buy a handball penalty in Europe.
Which one do we have today?
I think it was Fred. I think Araujo off a corner or a free kick, he headed it back, and then Fred had his arm outstretched, and then
yeah.
So I think there was 3 overall against Inter.
Yeah, the Inter one.
Was there one against Bayern as well? I think there might have been.
I remember Bayern beating them convincingly, so I don't know if it mattered, to be fair. But
but you know how
Inter were the big ones.
Yeah, Inter. So I'm pretty sure there was 3 against Inter, and then there was this one as well. It's like, oh man, they are getting no rub of the green with these handball calls at all, and I don't know. I think if you look at it from memory, if it didn't strike Fred's hand, it would have fell to a Barca player, that ball. So Barca would have got the advantage from that header if it didn't hit his hand. So it should be a penalty then, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to play this game, should Koundé be getting sent off for the tackle on Rashford later in the game? The one just outside the area, but probably could have been seen as a foul and a red card.
That was the exact same point that I brought up on Martinez against Leeds in the first Leeds game, where he makes that, and it's pretty much the exact same tackle in the exact same position, and Martinez it would have been a yellow card. I think it would have. I'm not sure it would have been his second, but it would have been his first yellow card. But it should have been a yellow card. Was Koundé already on a yellow or no?
Well, it would have been. I think it was denying a clear goal scoring opportunity, so it probably would have been a red for that.
We need to see where the other defender was.
I'm pretty sure Rashford was through.
I'm pretty sure he was as well. But regardless, it was pretty much the exact same foul that Martinez committed, and was just outside the box, so it's not given.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think 2-2 was fair?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe would have slightly edged it to United, but that's because United were fortunate that Pedri got injured.
I agree, because I thought that first 30 minutes, I thought Barca were controlling the game quite nicely, and they actually had some threat, and I thought they were taken out of stride when, I think Pedri's the jewel in that Barca crown, so when he goes out, that job becomes a lot easier, and you can go forward without fear of being punched as hard going the other way. But I thought credit at least to Barca to get the equaliser and set up at least a still interesting tie, even though
they almost got a winner as well, didn't they? They had a goal line.
Yeah, they had a chance. I think Araujo had a header back post that I think maybe Malacia got in front of. So, look, I'm not putting it past them, but I'm worried about their attacking options going into the second leg. And I've got to put United as fairly heavy favourites going into that because, I think 2-2 is pretty fair.
When's the next game?
Unfair in the sense that Pedri goes off.
Let me just check that because I know that the UCL fixtures, the next game is apparently in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I think Europa League might be next week. I think they have a quick turnaround.
Yeah, because this is the round of 32 technically. and then they go straight into the round of 16, like whoever qualifies
or the round
from
of
this.
24 if you want to go technical.
Yeah. Feb 23rd, it seems. Yeah, so next week.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated to see how this ends. But yeah, I thought it was fun, and it somewhat lived up to the billing that we had of it, because we thought this would probably be the juiciest European tie maybe that we were going to get. I mean, there's other ones who have storylines, but football-wise, and yeah, it turned out to be pretty fun in that way. But yeah, Barca, Xavi, Y, and attacking options. They're my notes from this game. What are we going to do about that? I don't know. And obviously on the United side, confidence in their players. They just look like a good side now, United.
Yeah, they look like they've hit a good run of form at the moment, especially with Rashford banging in all these goals.
That's the interesting thing going forward. Does that sustain for the rest of the season? Because if it does, I'll put him in that world class bracket.
You would expect a dip.
He's performing so well.
Hang on, I've lost you for a sec.
Have you got me?
Yeah, you said he's performing so well.
He is performing so well at the moment. Maybe you'd expect a dip, like you said. And yeah, that's why I still need to see it. I'm not going to anoint him yet. But this is definitely the best I've seen him perform in his whole career. Because he's the main man, and he's popping up with important goals for United when I don't think anyone else is really capable of doing it, to be quite honest. Jadon Sancho didn't look like he was capable of getting a goal. Bruno Fernandes, yeah, he can pop up with a goal here and there, but it's not his main job. And Valvegos is there for his functionality, so it is Rashford or bust, really.
Does Bruno piss you off? He really pisses me off.
Oh, of course, man.
Like the constant complaining, the constant diving, faking injuries. Yeah, man.
I don't want to get too xenophobic with it, but it seems to be a Portuguese thing for me. They like to whine, they like to whinge a lot. If I think of Bernardo Silva, if I think of João Cancelo, if I think of Bruno Fernandes, if I think of João Felix, it just seems to be this theme that goes through it. So yeah, some of that acted I don't like, but yeah, for sure, I'm with you there.
Yeah, but he just and I think he just has like that punchable face as well. That adds on top of it. Oh, and he pisses me off.
But to be fair to the United fans who are listening, this is coming from an Arsenal and a Liverpool supporter, so take it with a pinch of salt.
I think a lot of fans from other clubs
football fans, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of football fans would agree on the point.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you want to add on before, that you want to talk about the weekend? Is there any interesting weekend fixtures or not really?
There really isn't across Europe. I guess maybe Atletico against Athletic Club, Athletic Bilbao. That's interesting in Spain. But honestly, from the rest of the leagues, there's nothing really to sink your teeth into, except for I think Liverpool-Newcastle is going to be a fascinating game this weekend. I think there's newfound jeopardy for Liverpool, and to see if they can go back-to-back with good results, if they can win this game, which might be a bridge too far given how poor they've been recently. But if they can play like they did against Everton, I'd give them a chance. Things need to go their way, but I'd still give them a chance. And that coupled with Newcastle's recent somewhat blip, although they are still immensely solid defensively, but somewhat blip, and obviously missing Bruno Guimaraes, I think that's probably the most fascinating game from the weekend. And it feels nice to say that about Liverpool for once, because I'd lost interest in Liverpool for the last month because they were that poor. But the Everton performance has given me at least some optimism. And that coupled with the fact of we think of how the season went two seasons ago, where they were completely out of a top four race, and then all of a sudden they were finishing third. So while it's not exactly the same, there's still at least a glimmer of hope that might happen. Or we could go to St. James's Park, get killed 3-0, and we're back to square one. But yeah, at least there's some jeopardy in this game, I think, for both teams. And that, for me, makes it the most interesting game this weekend.
Yeah, I think when we were discussing the fixtures before we started recording, I said that United and Leicester would be interesting if it was a couple of years ago. But you said Leicester did beat Tottenham 4-1. So maybe it could be an interesting fixture as well. Like if you look at
but the stakes and the jeopardy aren't high enough.
Yeah,
for me.
but if you look at the players on paper, at least, like you're like, this Leicester team is actually pretty, like they're okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So they'll give them a game.
They're just soft.
Yeah,
they're soft, man. If they get punched, they reacted well against Tottenham. To be fair to them, but
yeah,
if they can do that again,
United had a game midweek, Leicester didn't. So there's also that
as well, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd still put Arsenal and City's fixtures above that, although they're not the most glamorous fixtures. But Arsenal in particular, what was it, away at Villa?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want this added layer added to the whole drama of the title race. That Unai Emery is one of the guys to get a result against Arsenal that just sort of starts knocking the nail in the coffin. So I am very interested to see how Arsenal react to. Yeah, man. Because honestly, they could go either way because that was a very disheartening loss in the biggest game of the season. Like we said, I chose to look at it more optimistically, but there is a chance that you could look at it really pessimistically as well. So they need to get, like you said when you would have addressed the players after the game, they do need to get back to what they were doing early season. They need to not let these games infiltrate them against teams they're expected to beat. And they need to go out and show why they were the best team for the first half of the season. Because if they don't, the pressure just keeps piling on ever since Pep's press conference, and that's a worry.
Yeah.
If I'm of an Arsenal persuasion, but that is a fascinating game. It
seems like over the last 3 games that the teams that we're playing against, they impose their game on us instead of us imposing our game on them. That's what it felt like. And that's why all 3 teams have gotten results against us. So now it's a question of, can we get a reaction out of the boys? Like, we didn't get one after Everton. We didn't get one after Brentford. So now we need to get one after City. So yeah, hopefully we can get a win then. And against Unai as well.
Surely Arteta's sent his media people on to check for any tweets the Villa players have sent out that are derogatory towards Arsenal.
I don't know. It's just
Sean McGinn.
It's just a picture of Martinez fucking the trophy.
Man.
But I think that's a good way to end the pod.
What a way to end it. Just how Martinez ended the World Cup. Where ended the pod? With that image.
Yeah, with that image in our heads, fresh in our minds. But to everyone that's stuck around, a little bit of a shorter pod. We actually managed to breeze through this, which it's good. And you're frozen.
Yeah, we did well. I'm proud of ourselves to not go over 2 hours.
Yeah,
I'm back.
You're back.
And I remembered to turn the light on for this evening pod as well.
It helped, but it's still not great. Didn't you say
it's still dark? I know.
Didn't you say you had like a ring light or something?
I haven't set it up. I'm sorry, Mum.
Oh,
I got it
man.
for Christmas. I still haven't set it up.
What a wasted Christmas gifts thus far.
No, it's not wasted. I've got to set it up.
It's technically wasted because you're not using it.
It is wasted to this point. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Don't make me feel guilty, man.
You should. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, abuse us, praise us, whatever.
All of it.
All of it.
We're just grateful for the attention.
Whatever attention that may be, whether it be negative or bad. You know what what do they say? Bad publicity is...
what is it? Publicity is good publicity or something like that. I've forgotten.
I don't know, something along... I think it's more the focus of, like, bad publicity is good publicity. Because, like, you know, even if they're talking about you in a negative way, yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming and bye for now.